Hello, Peter Boggins here again, and you'll be glad to know this is the last in this little series of these little questions for now, of these little videos. So we can have a little break from my face for a bit after this one. So this is another answer to a question video. So yeah, this question is, what are common misconceptions that you would like to correct? God, there are so many. I will try to whittle it down to a few. I'll have whittled it down to a few, but just, yeah, there's so many misconceptions and misinformation out there about neurodivergence that, it's just... Anyway, I guess the first one is not all neurodivergent people are the same. Not all autistic people are the same. Not all ADHD people are the same. There might be things we struggle with, and we might have some things in common that we struggle with, or we might have different, abilities or inabilities that we live with. But it's a bit like saying all cousins are the same people, or all neurotypical people are the same person, because they're all the same personality or whatever. Or some of them, it's like saying some other minority are all the same. It's a bit frustrating, and it's a bit condescending to think that we're all, that we're all the same. Or a lot. I get told a lot that I don't come across as having autism or ADHD because, the stereotypical image of what that is so implanted into people's brains, really. And so what I would like to do, particularly with this channel, is correct that or educate that, and let people see different sides or different opinions on that. Like I've said in a couple of other videos, education's kind of the main game of this channel. So I guess another misconception or stereotype is that all autistic people are good at maths. I was okay-ish at maths when I was taking exams at 16. I got B in GCSE maths, so that's like the end of, or was the end of, like secondary school, high school-ish. I wasn't a maths genius, and I think my attempt at a further maths education proved that. I tried to do maths A-levels, and I sucked. I got a U, which is basically ungradable. I think I did one maths exam at AS level, and I got 17%, something like that, 16 or 17%. And yeah, that was only the next step up from, basic maths, basically. So I certainly am not a maths genius. Same applies for IT and science, really. I have a vague understanding of how computers work, which is quite bad because I have a degree in forensic computing. I probably know slightly more than the average person, but I don't really remember anything that I learned at university. And I haven't really used the degree since I graduated, so I've forgotten pretty much everything. Yeah, I've got vague recollections of some of the stuff. Same for science, really. I did okay at 16 in exams and GCSEs. Didn't do great at A levels, so that's 17 to 18. Did kind of okay on a BTEC, which is like an equivalent to A levels in my early 20s. Yeah, I did all right because it was kind of an applied science. I scraped through. And I think the stereotype for autistic people is that we just are automatically or innately good at these subjects, and we just automatically excel in these subjects. And people don't realise that we're not all like that. A lot of the things that we're good at are based on how interested we are in a particular subject. And how driven we are to succeed in that subject is kind of like how interested in that particular subject we are. And I think a lot of autistic people are learning that about themselves, or have learned that about themselves. Then I was kind of thinking, actually, I should have done more of such and such a subject and not put so much effort into others. Just because I was told that that's what autistic people were good at. So yeah, I have vague ideas on how computers work, but you wouldn't want to employ me to manage an IT system or run a company's IT network, because I'm not very good at it. I suck at computer coding. That's another thing that autistic people are supposed to be good at that I just never was. So yeah, you just what else? I guess for ADHD, it's the idea that we're all hyperactive. Does everything at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Does never sit still, and is overly energetic. Is probably the main misconception for ADHD, because that's kind of like the image that everyone has in their head. I think I've said in one or two other videos that I this is just my opinion, that I think ADHD is more of a spectrum than people realise. I think rather than, because there are sort of different types of ADHD, and some people kind of either straddle one or two, or they kind of maybe have sort of traits of one or the other, or are more of one and less of the other. So yeah, I guess that kind of folds into the sort of ADHD stereotype that we're all easily distractible, can't sit still, 1,000,000 miles an hour type of thing. And I suppose the last one, and this goes for both autism and ADHD, is how it affects different people. So, and not just individuals. Obviously, individuals on the autistic spectrum and with ADHD will be different from the next individual with autism or ADHD. But how differently it can affect boys or girls, adults or children, men and women, how an autistic person or ADHD person might change as they grow up. They might they might show certain traits when they're 5, but then they might show different traits when they're 25. And they might, in those years, they might sort of develop different ones or lose certain ones or gain new ones. And, it's, no autistic or ADHD person is like a fixed spot on the spectrum. They don't, they kind of move around almost, and they might exhibit different traits, through the years, or it might even be day to day. One day they might really struggle with a lot of things, and then the next day they might not at all whatsoever. So I feel like that one is a big one that kind of slipped under the radar a little bit. Oops, sorry. And yeah, so that one kind of goes unnoticed a little bit, I think. And that, the misconception that we don't, autistic people don't feel emotion or can't express emotion, or, people think that that's static as well, and that, can't learn that, or, can't, we learn to understand sarcasm, or we learn to read people. People think that that's a very static thing. So yeah, that's probably the last one I think that I can think of, because I think autistic people, they process and they regulate different emotions differently, and that's probably what autistic people struggle with. Rather than feeling those emotions, they don't know how to express them, or they don't know how to regulate them. So that's kind of where some meltdowns might come from, is because they kind of really don't know what to do with the things that they're feeling, and that can be overwhelming, and then that triggers, meltdowns. So that's probably the main 4 that I can think of. Yeah, like I say, this is the last video in a series of videos, so you can have a break from my face now. I'll put all of these in a list, and yeah, I hope you've found these videos useful and interesting. So yeah, see you in the next ones.